Welcome to part 2 of our Best of 2022. You've heard us discuss 5 songs each, now you get to hear the other half. Please enjoy this episode. Share with people, click buttons that say like and download, and just have a lovely time. We have had a great year with this podcast, and it's all down to you. So yeah, thanks again. You know, we don't have any big showbiz names or any production company or even a Patreon, so if you can just share it with at least one person, that would be fantastic. And yeah, please enjoy the episode.
Oh, hang on. Yeah, what are we calling this podcast?
Was it over underrated?
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
So, explain to me, what is a sync track? Because you mentioned this. What does that mean to the uninitiated?
That seems to be a modern term.
Okay.
So
Tell this elder millennial, please.
So basically, it means that you sold your song. So what Moby did with the advert, you sold your song to like an advert or something. It's called a sync. So it synced it with a scene from a movie. It synced it with a scene from a TV show. Yeah, that's what the kids call it now.
The kids. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So the kids, this one's for you. So my sync track is No Return by Craig Redren and Anna Waronker, which is a theme tune to one of my favourite TV shows of 2022, Yellow Jackets. I would maybe tie it with the playlist that I saw recently, which if you haven't watched Fran, you absolutely should, because number 1, it's Swedish, number 2, it's about Spotify. I am crowning this, officially, the best TV theme tune of all time.
Goodness, better than Twin Peaks?
Better than Twin Peaks.
Round the Twist?
What was that?
Oh, you may have missed it. Round the Twist?
Round the Twist.
No?
That is one of those British references where I'm like, I've heard of this, but I've never consumed it.
Give that theme tune.
Oh, hang on, is that the weird Australian one?
Yeah.
Oh,
have
yeah.
you ever felt like this? Strange things happened. Are you going around the twist? From a certain era.
I haven't heard that, but there was that video that went viral of it recently where it was like a scene where this girl's running away from a very scary scarecrow.
Yes. Yeah. It was one of those like kids shows which was
terrifying,
quite adult at the same time.
Yeah. Well. Funny you should say that, because I'm guessing you know about Yellow Jackets, right? The concept.
I know little. I know just the trailer, really.
Oh,
I don't
gosh.
Really know.
Oh, well, let's fucking get into it. So Yellow Jackets is a TV show that's set in 2 timelines. One is the present, and there are actors who are kind of 90s goddesses like Melanie Linsky and Christina Ricci and Juliette Lewis. And it is also set in the 90s, and there are younger versions of these characters who were on a football, not soccer, they were on a football.
So like It sort of thing.
I haven't seen it. No, but it is a scary clown, right?
Yeah, but it cuts back and forth between them now and them.
Oh,
kids.
okay, then sure. But it's more like Lost, because basically they are on a plane to Seattle, but it crashes in the Canadian wilderness. And you know from the beginning that they were stuck there for 19 months. So this plane crashed, they were there for 19 months. And you know at least some of the people who survived, because some of them are in the present. But there's obviously a much bigger group of girls and other people as well. And it's just so well done. Like the flitting between the 2 eras, the actors really match each other very well, and musically, it's a really great show. So I hadn't heard of either of the guys who did the theme tune. So apparently Craig Wedren is formerly of Shudder to Think, and Anna Waronker is formerly of That Dog. I had not heard either of those artists, but they did the soundtrack, not just the theme tune, but the soundtrack. And they said, we aim to channel our off-kilter 90s roots into something that felt like then, but could have only been made now, just like the show. So obviously it's in the present, but the way that it looks like at the 90s, it was very modern eyes. And, I will get into the song, but the way this song plays over the credits, where when you watch the first episode of a series, you don't know any of the moments that it's referencing, but by the end of the series, you then know the moments that it's referencing, because it uses bits of the show.
So it's like clues to the
plot, at the very least. And yeah, it is a very kind of Twin Peaksy, kind of mysterious show of, You know these girls were stranded. You know that a few of them are very traumatized in the present, and weird shit is happening in the present. How does it link to the past? What's going on?
So does that mean that it's only got a finite amount of series it can be, because you know that it's only given 19 months total?
I think so, but so the first series, it's probably like in the past only about 3 months have gone by tops. I will shout out to No Book Club, which is Matt Latham from Pickadisc's side podcast, or one of his many podcasts that he's on. Honestly, I'm not one to listen to podcasts about TV shows, but they analyze each episode in a lot of depth, and it's very, very good. But I love the TV show for all these reasons, and I think as someone who grew up a little bit in the 90s, it is quite funny, like, obviously people die in this plane crash, and they have a funeral for one of the girls, and they were like, oh, and you're going to see Oasis next week or something like that. So there are all these kind of very fun references. But I think this is a very Blood Red Shoes kind of song. That's what it reminded me of. Great bass hook, demented guitar, spooky synths, the time signature changes, Anna's voice starts very whispery, mysterious, and by the end she's going, no return, no return, no reason, which again matches what goes on in the TV show, because they want to return but they can't because they're stuck in the woods. Anyway, love Yellow Jackets, love the song. What do you think?
But yeah, this could be Blood Red Shoes.
Excellent.
On my first thing I've heard.
Excellent, yeah.
So yeah, I put down it's like disturbing computer game sounds with a low frequency bass, eerie an eerie presence all the way through, repetitive, no return. I've not seen a TV show, but I added it to my song list. I really liked it.
The hit rate is higher than I was expecting, I have to say.
Because usually with a TV theme, sometimes after a while you get a bit tired of it. So I guess you're not tired.
I think I can go and tell you the placing that this song had on my 2022 list. But it's one of those where I would actually quite like to go and listen to the rest of the soundtrack, because the soundtrack is very good. But I get obsessed with this song. So this was my 12th most heard song in 2022. I think maybe I became more obsessed with it because, you're watching this TV show that you like, and then all you get from it is at the beginning, and then you're distracted by the TV show. But I think it's my favorite, because as much as I like Twin Peaks, and there are so many others that are so memorable, this is a song I genuinely enjoy. I think maybe I wouldn't enjoy it as much, but I would still quite enjoy it outside of the TV show.
Unlike the Friends theme tune.
I am done with the Rembrandts. Thank you very much. So where's your sync song from? So
I play very small amount of computer games these days, but I'm quite loyal, so I will just keep playing the same game but updated for next year. So one of those is eFootball, previously known as PES, and it actually had really good soundtracks. And what is really weird, this is the second part of, every 6 months they kind of rejig the playlist, and on the first playlist, Group Love were on there, and I added Group Love saying, your song's on, and they had no idea. And I was like, how do you not know that you're synced to a big computer game? Mm-hmm. But I guess it must be that the publishing company must just do it, and they just have no say. So that was a bit odd for me to find out.
You'd think they'd have some say over where.
Yeah, because what was it something that I absolutely fucking hate? Oh. But so that's interesting. So I am a fan of the band Spoon. Well, I say I'm a fan of the band Spoon. I'm a fan of moments of the band Spoon. Mm. They have periods of greatness, but oddly, when they sort of became kind of massive in America around 2010 is when, for me, they got shit. So this is the first decent album since 2009, and this song Wild is on that computer game, and I probably hear it on a daily basis. So for me to not hate it is quite good going. But it's got kind of like a gospel piano. It's sort of cool indie groove. Yeah, I think it's probably one of the best singles that they've done since 2009. Brett Daniels has a distinctive sound. I mean, it hasn't really got a strong chorus or anything, but the whole vibe, I can't stop listening to it.
So they're kind of a cult band, right? Adam Buxton likes them.
Yeah,
right?
But they're weird. So they're cult, but when you look at the stats, they have top 10 albums in America. So it's kind of weird.
America's a weird place for that sometimes, where it's you have just enough of a
following,
following. I think maybe there's just this rock heartland. I think there's just a lot of men who are I like rock, and rock is what I like. We're going to disconnect from hip hop and everything else that's going on.
But I mean, I wouldn't even describe them as a rock band anymore. Their last two albums are experimentations, they've really changed the sound. They started off being like a Pixies sounding band back in the 90s, so they did change.
They're one of those bands that, like, every time I listen to their songs, I'm like, they're fine, but I never bother saving any of them. And I have to say, I think this was the song I was the most indifferent to. Like, I didn't hate it, but it has this sort of promising start, bass and drums, the acoustic guitar come in. But strangely, the more it builds, the less I like it. And by the time it gets to the chorus, I was like, this isn't for me. And then there's a section just after the chorus where there's a sort of prominent rhythm guitar and some strings. And I was like, oh no. And I listened to it again because sometimes, that's just an initial thing. But I think also the Spoon that I've heard is heavier and rockier. And I think because I was expecting that, and because this isn't a million miles away from, say, R. Kelly's and Taylor Swift, I was like, well, this is like the worst version of that kind of music, of the songs that you provided. So, like I said, I didn't hate it, but it didn't move me. And I wonder if it moves you because you listen to it all the time.
Well, no, because it's interesting, because they are probably one also, I think, statistically, they had the highest rated albums of all time. If you add all of their albums to Metacritic, they have the highest average score of any band.
Wow!
Like they're
Proper
all
cult
over
band.
they're all over 75, and I think this has like 82 out of 100. This album.
Well, I'm alone then, guys.
But yeah, so like, even Pitchfork like this sort of music. So, but I would say, as a fan of the band, like they've made one good album. Like usually there's 3 or 4 choice takes. For me personally, and then it would get like an 87 out of 100. I'm like, really? But yeah, 2009, ga 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 ga.
Are you just naming things of cinemas today?
It's what I like best. Oh yeah, and when I saw them at the Borderline, which is like a small venue, well, a former small venue, and I was standing next to Travis bassist Dougie Payne and Adam Buxton watching them, and that was a highlight for me. Didn't say a word to them. But
good.
I was there.
I mean, I don't know. If you're famous, you've got to handle some level of fame, but at a gig is not where you want to have a conversation, right?
And what am I going to say? Great band, guys.
I know you like them too. I like you too.
Let's hang. No, okay.
Let's go in the mosh pit, guys.
But yeah, and also like when I went to Seattle, they were the first band I got forced to watch. I'd never heard of them, so I've always got like a kinship to them because I enjoyed their show.
The next track is One to Hear Live. And probably a surprising choice for me. I think this is a surprising choice for me. I've gone for Unholy by Sam Smith and Kim Petras. And the reason I've gone for this is because I discovered their song and I was like, whoa, this is a really good pop song. What a great pop song. And then I went to see the version they did for Radio 1 with this unbelievable voice choir in the background. And their amazing harmonizing. It totally blew me away. It's like, I thought this was a great pop song already, but this has taken it to the next level. I do know what you think about this a little bit because we had a conversation about it before, but from my side, I love the dirty synths. I think they're both great vocalists. Their voices go very well together, especially when they harmonize in the final chorus. And I will, of course, read a YouTube comment from the live video from Raj Sehata. He said, "This is coming from a 55-year-old straight dude that grew up on punk rock. My jaw is literally on the floor right now. This is the greatest, most classic and iconic gay anthem since Gaga's Born This Way. This is ultimate and doesn't even compare, TBH. Sam and Kim are an unstoppable force together. Imagine if they recorded an entire album together with songs like this. Their chemistry is undeniable. They just got a brand new fan now. I will purchase their entire collection of records today. Awesome to see such brave talent out there." And yeah, I think it broke some records as well because obviously Sam is non-binary and Kim is trans, and I think it's the first time that anything like this has, this went to number one. Even though Kim Petras, I don't know if you know about her controversies with Dr. Luke of Kasha. So Kim Petras has made songs with Dr. Luke, who's the guy who Kasha has accused of sexual assault. So yes, some let's say the least complications. And they recently, people were tweeting Kim Petras about it, and she responded quite negatively. And then, people came to Kasha's defense, and Kasha tweeted out, thank you, because I think she felt a bit attacked.
Isn't she the youngest person to ever have a sex change in Germany or something?
Yeah, so I think she obviously, as with, I imagine, many people, knew from a very young age that she was trans. And from what I remember researching, she documented her transition, basically. Mm-hmm. So she knew from a very young age, so that she did everything that she needed to do, and then had, I don't think you can have that kind of transitional operation before you're 18, but you can do other stuff. Yeah, Kim Petras, I dip into her stuff as well. Like I have enjoyed some of her more recent stuff, but that's it. I don't particularly like Kim Petras. I don't particularly like Sam Smith as much as I like their voice. I don't like a lot of their music. It's a bit too cheesy for me. Again, I was having a conversation with my neighbor about it, and I'm just pissed off as well that their song was picked over Radiohead's The Bond theme, because Radiohead's Spectre is so much better. Thank you very much. But you can't deny their voice is amazing, and I think it works really well on this Unexpected song.
Well, I think Radiohead were too late. It wasn't chosen
Was
over
it that?
it.
Oh,
Yeah, they
God.
didn't get it. In time,
Admin,
I think.
guys, come on! I can't. As someone with ADHD, I can't say that. But yeah, fair enough.
Because there's a great documentary on Amazon about the Bond themes, and David Arnold mentions how he wanted Radiohead so badly, and then they did it too late.
Mm-hmm. I mean, at least they released it, because it is truly, I don't like much post 2006 Radiohead, but that's definitely one of my favorites.
You mentioned Lady Gaga. I think Lady Gaga must be furious that this isn't her track. Do you know what I mean?
I mean, when I talked to you about it, because I talked to you, I think maybe about the live version, and you said there were some Arabian strings, which is definitely true. I can imagine that would be a bit of a change for Lady Gaga, but I wouldn't necessarily put it in her wheelhouse.
And the video is Frankie Goes to Hollywood
For the modern
2020.
age.
Yeah, basically. I mean, if you took your car for an MOT, you'd be waiting a while to get a service guy. Believe me.
Don't go to the body shop if you want your certain needs serviced anyway.
But yeah, I mean, the chord it grinds my gears. I can't get it. Really gets on my nerves.
But this is it. So interesting. Like if someone had told me, like, would Fran prefer Loyal Kana or Sam Smith and Kim Petras? I'm like, Sam Smith and Kim Petras, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind Sam Smith's ballads either. I don't mind. I've not heard of Kim before, and I did some research, and she did a cover of Running Up the Hill, which is fine.
Did she?
But there's some songs from previous years I thought were pretty decent. She's got
some good songs.
I didn't know. I'm surprised she hasn't come to the UK. I guess.
I have to say, she's got some good songs, but yeah, it's not like it's continuous bangers. But I do think she definitely, a bit like Charlie XCX or Dorian Electra or Rebecca Black, it's like she is big in the queer communities. Like I think this has maybe given her some recognition in the mainstream a bit more, because again, yeah, what is big these days? Like I was reading, you know how much I love Charlie XCX, and one day we will talk about her in depth. I had thought about this before, and then I read about it, and I felt vindicated. Like Charlie XCX is so rarely a headliner, on big festivals. When you go and look at her numbers, it's enormous, and she's such a big gay icon. So like I think the most, let's say, queer.
How come she is a big gay icon? What?
I think she celebrates it. She celebrates that community. When I went to see her live, honestly, it's her and Uffy are the two artists where I'm like, oh my god, like it is gay men and me at this concert. And when I saw her at Ancienne Belgique, she literally said, like the LGBTQ plus community is so big for me. And then she invited some drag queens on stage, and like as if it was pre-planned, because I remember being like, there are some drag queens here, like with a very big like this is not very practical for for kind of being that. I also think it's because she does hyperpop, right? And I do think that world with A.G. Cook and Sophie, like it is very clubby. But although I have to say, like, one of my best friends in Brussels is gay, and I can tell you that you will have never heard of her. So it depends. But I do think because Kim Petras does make this kind of also very poppy music, and we're not in an age where pop has the same breakthrough to everyone, this being an exception. Maybe that's why.
Okay, so moving on to my choice. So this is track I Want to Hear Live. I could have seen Jamie T live, but he clashed with the World Cup. Yeah, at Glastonbury, I mentioned in a previous podcast that he was really fucking drunk, and his shirt was popping out, and he couldn't give a fuck. I mean, but he actually couldn't give a fuck. And there was people who tried to say we didn't give a fuck, but they've spent ages trying to look that way.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is co-written with Hugo White from the Maccabees. He also produced the album. Yeah, I mean, when Jamie T came out, I thought, yeah, this shouldn't be for me, because he's like an East London, all right, London, doing mixing rap and rock. Yeah, I just love his energy. I mean, again, I'm not usually a big fan of lyrics, but this is obviously about his musical career, about his struggles and how he tries to make a great song and all these issues he's had since being in the music industry. But yeah, it's just I love the guitars, I love the chorus. I just want to be part of a mosh pit, jumping up and down to it. So hopefully that will happen soon. So yeah, what do you think?
Fingers crossed. So I've never been a particular Jamie T fan. I don't think I've explored beyond Sheila.
Yeah.
The bit has got to me. The coconut has got to me. I was really surprised to see this. This could have very easily gone in the genre that.
Really, but he's still part of the indie.
But it's not a million miles away from the streets, and we all know what you think about the streets.
But Jamie can sing rather than talk.
Mike, don't get in touch. But honestly, I could not sing you what Sheila sounds like. Probably if I heard it, I'd be like, oh yeah, that one. But I was just like, yeah, I never gelled with him. I was just like, yeah, like shouty guy who I'm not interested in. But when it started, I was like, oh, okay, this is not what I expected it to be. And there's like a very synthy chorus and a very nice bass accompaniment. But I tell you, I still don't know what I think about this song. I think the video warmed me to it. So the video is his funeral, basically, but he's alive in a coffin with like a transparent piece of glass, and people are mourning him or angry at him and stuff, which I quite liked. And he's got a funny face, and what I mean by that, it's like a humorous face. He seems like a funny man, which is very endearing to me. But I think because I expected it to be let's say even more so like the streets, but then it was a bit indie, but it wasn't very straightforward. I think I need a few more listens to decide whether I like it or not. Like again, maybe a bit like I definitely enjoyed it more than Spoon. I think Spoon was maybe my least favourite of the...
Have you not heard Zombie by Jamie T?
No, not knowingly.
Okay, that's probably his best as an indie rock and roll song. It's a song that he's biggest at festivals still doing.
No, he kind of passed me by, and he seems like a charming person. So when you said it was, when I saw it was in the live category, I'm like, yeah, I'm sure if you've got the crowd singing along with you as well, that might be good. But yeah, I didn't dislike it, but I just... again, didn't connect with it. I need a few more listens, I think.
Yeah, the closest thing to hip hop on my playlist.
Yeah, that's it. Because I was thinking this is a Fran synth classic. I think up until Spoon, but then I was like, but it's not the rock that I thought it was going to be.
Okay, so moving away from nostalgic noughties indie.
Yeah. So this was a very last minute addition to the list. I literally swapped out totally different artist.
Who was it? I can't remember.
It was Ice Spice, who I'd mentioned, Feeling You, Munch Feeling You by Ice Spice, which was a kind of a hip hop track. But I discovered this artist, I can tell you, literally kind of 5 days ago. And I've been listening to a lot of Slipknot recently. I've become obsessed with Slipknot. I messaged Fran being like, I think I'm having some kind of midlife crisis because I was never into them and now I'm really into them and I don't know what's going on. I moved to Luxembourg as new metal was happening, so I feel like a lot of it passed me by because I was going through this kind of transitional stage. I wasn't really paying attention to the music that was big, or if I was, it was more pop or music and Radiohead that I was getting into. So with I think Korn and Slipknot recently, I was like, there's such big bands, I need to get into them. And Korn, I was like, okay, fine. But Slipknot, I liked them a little bit and I saved a few songs. But then for whatever reason, I think there's a certain kind of heavy rock that I like, that I really, really like, but it's very difficult to find exactly what it is. So, it is in System. It is in Bring Me the Horizon. It is in even like Nirvana, the heavier Nirvana or Rage Against the Machine. And Slipknot it is very heavy, but it's also strangely poppy, like almost melodic. Some of their songs have like incredible pop choruses, but anyway.
The choruses, they're sneaky, aren't they? They're sneaky.
Bloody Corey and all his friends. So yeah, I've been in a very, let's say, metal and new metal kind of mood, but it isn't just because of that. So I discovered this act. So the act is Cinnamon Baby, and the track is Rock and Roll Is Black, exactly the same way that I discovered one of last year's picks, Turnstile, through the Instagram account @punk.black, who promote alternative bands with people of colour in them. They're based in Atlanta. So Stormy, I thought it was a band, but no, it's just her, and she is the composer and the lyricist for this song. She only performed live for the first time literally 4 days ago. 4 days ago, she did it. She's an influencer and a model. So like I feel like you would associate that with something maybe a bit poppier, a bit more ethereal, but no, she really fucking loves metal, and she's like, yep, this is how I'm getting a lot of my anger and rage out. And obviously it's called Rock and Roll is Black because it's a song with clear intent. She's talking about taking rock back to its roots, which is black music. She talks about Hendrix flooding my bloodstream, rebel of this world, hear my screams, ready to push the minority dream. She talks about the difficulties I think a lot of people have. When I dress how I want, they call me a freak. When I talk how I want, they call me a geek. Of, especially being a black person, a black woman in this kind of world where it's mostly white men, it's not ideal. So I very much identified with that, being just as a female rock fan, where like any woman in any rock band, I was like, oh, this, you can do this, it can exist. But not just that, this song is a fucking banger. Like, there's riffs aplenty. Comparisons to Rage Against the Machine and Fever 333, of course that's going to happen. But the particular way in which she raps and speaks, I think it's not Saxon or Rocker, it's something else. And there is more of a metal heavy element than Rage Against the Machine. There's less funk, more metal. But it's not one note, it's not like it's just like riff, heavy guitar all the way through. There's light and shade. So not one. I know your views on new metal. I don't think this is going to be one of your favourites, but I really enjoyed getting to know this band.
It is Rage Against the Machine, and even at the end, rather than saying "fuck me, I'm not going to do what you tell me," she says,
"I'm taking my culture back."
I think that's literally the same as that is basically the same song. I mean, she's a good singer. She's amazing, hot.
Oh, mega hot.
But yeah, I don't know if I bought it. Because I'm looking, there's lots of TikToks about metal, and I'm like, is this a thing just because it's different to stand out? She then, in an interview, name checks Marilyn Manson as inspiration.
Well, that is unfortunate.
and then on a tweet today, she goes, as an artist, just be careful who you associate and write about. As someone who speaks up for racism, homophobia, misogyny, and mental health, I'm finding it hard to find an ally. I'm like, a week ago, you name-checked Marilyn Manson as a hero in an interview,
That's
so make your mind up.
Because she wrote about, she has a song called Pure O, which is about her struggles with intrusive thoughts and OCD. I mean, I can believe that this is an outlet for her. I absolutely can, but I have to say, yes, I was surprised to find out that she was kind of a social media star, but when I found out that she was the writer and lyricist, I was like, well, clearly this is her thing. I don't know. I don't think I'm as cynical because I am a woman who is into rock, who doesn't necessarily dress like a woman who's into rock. I'm not. I was never a goth. I think the most I've done for that is band t-shirts. And I think when you're into a genre that people in your group, whatever that is not like, I think you maybe do have to hide it or compensate. So I'm not happy about Marilyn Manson. I think you can say, like, I'm inspired by his music because he has some excellent music. But yeah, that is quite.
It's just quite funny. Literally a week later, that's if you go to Twitter, that's her most recent tweet. I'm like, oh no, it's early on. We don't know what's going to happen.
I mean, like I said, yeah, she's only performed live for the first time 4 days ago. So yeah, I think I'm really intrigued to see how it develops because it's so new.
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
So I did score each one, a bit like Daniel from the previous podcast.
Have you written something down?
So yeah, I've written something down, and I've written hate, bop 7 out of 10, stat 7 out of 10, bop, Sorako 5 out of 10, flop. I can't remember her name. The Paranoia. What's the
Chubby?
Yep. 6 out of 10. Young Lean 5 out of 10. Yellow Jacket 7 out of 10. Sam Smith 4 out of 10. Cinnamon Babe 5 out of 10.
Wow, 7 being the okay. I thought I had a win, but 7. We're not breaking.
No, 7 for me is a bop. I'm hard to please.
Yeah, see, I'm enthusiastic, so yeah.
7. Yeah, so 7 is a bop. 7 gets a like on Spotify. So 3 likes so far. Yeah, so as my brand new act of 2022, I have chosen Being Stella from New York City, and this isn't actually my favourite song from theirs, but I thought this was more interesting. So I think their song Kids 95, referencing the film, is their better song, but I thought it was a bit too obvious. And then so this is The Poets, and I also do really enjoy this. It's like a mix of The Clash and The Strokes, and a little bit Libertines thrown in there. I enjoyed the back and forth, but mainly I enjoyed the last 30 seconds. And yeah, it's just a bit raucous, it's not going to win any awards. But yeah, going through, I've got 5 brand new acts on my lights, and I thought out of all of them, this was the least generic. Although it's very generic, but a lot of them are just indie copying New Order or copying The Cure. Although they say themselves, we're young. Yes, we like the Strokes, and yes, we like television, but our new stuff is quite different, so I'll be interested to see how they develop over the year. And they've done like 4 or 5 songs and done a little tour of the UK, and I think they're quite interesting. And yeah, you mentioned that they've got a Portuguese
Brazilian.
drummer, drummer. And I saw some live videos, and they look like they're going to be decent. So hopefully, although I do curse a lot of new bands, so hopefully I've not cursed them.
I had never heard of Bin Stellar. I very much enjoyed part of their Spotify bio. Have you gone to look at it?
No, what's it? There's the problem on my app. I don't see the bios.
Oh right, I think because when I prepare for the podcast, I do it on my computer, so I'm on the desktop.
That's why.
It's just like youthfully pretentious in a charming way. It's like Bin Stellar is what you get when you leave the youth alone in a metropolis. They grow up, they make noise.
But that's the PR company, isn't it? That's not them.
I don't think so.
Because there's an enemy interview and it seemed okay.
Oh,
so
really? Well, the thing,
hopefully.
so it says that the video for this song was inspired by Tropic of Cancer by Henry Miller and Life is Elsewhere by Milan Kundera. So I'm like, right, okay, those are pretty kind of highbrow references there. So clearly that they're arty people. But
yeah, I mean, Kids is obviously an art house film from the 90s.
Which I have not seen, but I would like to. I would like to. So I thought a lot about when George was on the podcast, because Nation of Language, I think you maybe disliked them more than I did because you felt that they wore their influences too much on their sleeve. I think Bean Stellar are this for Arctic Monkeys, Strokes, and Jay Retard are the 3 bands that I put. So we've got the Strokes in common, but
I can't hear Arctic Monkeys, but I can hear
his voice. His voice sounds exactly like Alex Turner.
But I thought he had more of a Julian Casablancas sort of like New York sort of thing.
Listen again, and see, because there's a kind of, I mean, okay, I guess they're both kind of crooners, but the way that he crooned was that, and I put Jay Retard because he's my kind of go-to lo-fi garage rock, but others are available. I did enjoy this song. I did enjoy the slightly pretentious lo-fi video where the lead singer's just covered in water,
just having a shower.
Having a shower, and it was recorded and not because I almost messaged you again being like, Fran, is this from 2020? And I think this did initially come out in 2020, but it did come out again in 2022. So I'm like, we're safe on this one. But yeah, I did enjoy, especially the lo-fi garage rock vibes and his voice. My favorite bit in the song is when all the instruments apart from the drums lift and it's just his voice and the drums in this little section in the middle, and in the video he's like hugging a statue. It's all very charming. But again, I think the Nation of Language comparison is where I've put it here, because for me it's not yet far away enough for me to really embrace them. But like you say, they're young. I'm sure that they have more to give.
That's why I want you to listen to that other song, because I think you'd hear the progression. Because I don't know yet what is the sound, because they've only got 5 songs. So the Kids 95 is quite different.
The joy of a new artist, right? You have to say
yeah. So let's see what happens to them. Yeah, but like I said, we're both old music fans. It's hard to find a brand new band, so we're scraping down the bottom of the barrel a bit.
But do you know what?
I almost chose to smile, but I thought that'd be fucking cheating.
That would be cheating. I mean, it's accurate. If they only released songs in 2021, 2022, that would have been accurate.
But yeah, so moving on to your rock track.
Right. I think this was the most difficult.
Although we've had quite a few rock tracks.
Yeah, so when Fran and I were coming up with the categories, I was like, should we just have a best rock one? Because obviously we can just fit stuff in. But this was the most difficult category. And maybe, again, this isn't the most accurate. I think maybe I could have put in, let's say, Strawberry Lemonade by Editors or Leech by Dream Wife. But, this band have supported Editors in the past.
Okay.
They have. I found out today. And they are Belgian, so of course I'm gonna represent. So I've picked Tilt by Whispering Suns. And they've actually been around for 10 years almost. I had no idea. They're a Belgian post-punk band and they're currently living in Brussels. And I first discovered them when I went to this Darkwave festival celebrating this Brussels-based record label called Weird Sounds that they have some records on, as well as Drab Majesty, who I saw that evening as well. And they were incredible. And actually, when I was I was searching through my emails to find out when this festival was so I could give you the date. And I had emailed my ex-boyfriend Felix, who was the one who introduced me to Drab Majesty, and I was like, oh my god, like I saw Drab Majesty last night, talked to them, which they were really nice, and I was like, oh, I've just seen this band and I've fallen in love with the front woman. So they were really, really good live. If they come anywhere near you, I would recommend it. And I followed them as the music has progressed, but this one I think is outstanding. I think they are. Well, we were talking about kind of influences. This isn't a million miles away from something like Joy Division, right? But for me, there is old punk with something new. There's something cleaner. There's something a bit more sophisticated there. I really love how the synths and the bass are used and the way the instruments come in and out. And her voice is incredible. She has this very low voice, which just adds and builds to the atmosphere. And I hadn't really paid attention to the lyrics, but they are suitably gothic, which is what I wrote. Your hands tainted by sin, haul me into the streets past a sulphurous scene. I mean, need I say more? I don't think so.
Yeah. So, is it Fene? Her name?
Fenna, I would guess. Yeah.
Fenna Coupons. Yeah, she's got a very interesting vocal. It's quite very deep and kind of mysterious.
Yeah, you would think it was a man singing.
Yeah, and she looks a bit like Taylor Hanson from The Hanson. So it's strange to hear that voice.
Yeah, you're not a million miles off. A bit gothier, but yeah.
Yeah. No, his gothy is, and yeah, it's got an icy, very careful production. But I just lost interest after a couple of minutes, and I think it needed something. Like a stronger chorus. I don't know.
I think this is the difference between you and me. I think sometimes when an atmosphere is created that's repetitive, I thrive on that. I'm like, yeah. I don't need a chorus. I can just leave me in there.
You're like the groove. But yeah, I because I like the backing music, I did listen to a track live beginning of A, because I forgot what it's called, and I really enjoyed that. So they do have other moments. Maybe this just wasn't the right vibe for me.
Again, like I think this could have easily been the one to see live. But I could have put they were really, when you know how it is when you go and see a band that you literally know absolutely. I knew nothing about them. I just knew I was going to a Dark Wave festival. I knew Drab Majesty and Cold Cave. They were the two bands that I knew a few songs about, and they were the local talent that really were on a par with them. So
yeah, Alone is a good track. I like Alone.
Alone. Okay, yeah, I need to. Yeah, again, with them, I don't know what any of their songs are called because I save as I go and then I play. It's more that than I'll go and listen to a whole album, not because I don't like a whole album, but again, just because we live in this world with a lot of music, and for this kind of, let's say, sinister post-punk, again, it's one that I don't always want to listen to.
So I've gone for Suede, a new band from England.
Yeah, very new band.
Yeah. So yeah, it seemed to be the year of lots of my favourite bands from previous years coming out of an album. So yeah, Suede, I mean, they've been back for 10 years, but this is their third comeback album, and they are getting loads of acclaim for it. This is from the album Auto Fiction, which is kind of a bit more to the rocky swagger of a mid-90s sound, I guess. And yeah, I think this is one of the best singles that Suede has done for a long, long time. It's got Brett at his finest. He's got his bark, his yelp, he's singing his high notes. He even mentions petrol blue eyes because he loves to bring in those petroleum lyrics or council estate sex sort of lyrics to his music. Bedsit sex scenes. But yeah, I saw them at Victorious, and it looked like a band revigorated, and he was jumping around. I guess he's in his early 50s now. But yeah, he had so much passion, and I was surprised because some bands playing a festival, they know that a lot of people there don't care, but he really was trying to turn to win every audience, and he was like running to the crowd and like going for it. And yeah, I was rather impressed, and I think this is the best song off the album personally. It's not the rockiest of tracks and roll, but it's got a decent guitar riff from my Paul based Richard Oakes.
Oh,
so yeah,
there we go.
But yeah, what do you think?
Well, what's your relationship to the band? Because I feel like this is maybe one of your favourite Britpop era bands.
If I turn to my right shoulder, I can probably see 6 CDs, a bootleg live CD, a B-side album. So I guess Yeah, a big
A
fan.
fan. So my mum was a big fan. I think I've mentioned before where we saw Brett Anderson. She's like, "That's Brett Anderson." I said, "Don't be ridiculous." And then she got his autograph, and I was like, "I have been, suitably upended there. Thanks, mum." So she was a big fan, but I think she got into them. I guess I got into them through her in the early 2000s. So Head Music, strangely, is
Oh
like
wow.
my album of theirs because that's the one that she would. I think Head Music is a great album, but that isn't, I would say, the more typical Suede sound.
Yeah, that's where people say it went wrong.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm just so often the way where I'm like the bit where it goes wrong. I'm like, oh, but I really enjoy this, and maybe again, sometimes it's context, right? Because I don't know Metal Mickey and all the other stuff that came before. And again, yeah, with Suede, they're one of those bands when I've gone into the past, dipped into that back catalogue, I was like, there's something about it that I think, again, it's maybe too melodic. So I was like, I'm not really sure how I'm going to feel about this because I don't know what they sound like at all. I think his voice sounds exactly like Morrissey at the beginning. Again, go and listen again. There's a certain element where I'm like, it's usually a bit more whiny, but I don't know if it's effects on his voice or something that smoothed it out. And I thought the chorus also wasn't a million miles away from the Smiths. But while you were talking, I gave myself a quick blast of the song again, and a bit like Jimmy T, I'm like, it was fine, but it didn't. I don't really have much to say beyond that, apart from I thought it sounded a bit like the Morrison and the Smiths. Like, it didn't leave its mark on me, I'm afraid. Again, I didn't dislike it, but I'm just like, it's fine.
It's not the first time they've been compared to the Smiths. Usually they compare themselves to the Smiths meet Sex Pistols. They'll get their first album, I guess, was a bit more punky. They were more of the punkier Britpop bands, maybe because they were just a 4-piece.
Five piece? No, 4
No.
piece. Oh, okay.
When Bernard Butler was a guitar player, they became a 5-piece when Bernard left.
Right. Okay. I was like, I've definitely seen Five Men.
Yeah. That's
I've seen Five Men.
That's why, like, coming up is their more poppy sound with like Trash and beautiful ones. That's with the keyboards. But yeah, there's no keyboards before that.
Yeah, I mean, so beautiful ones and all that. I'm like, it's a bit like pop. I'm like, I like it, but it doesn't make me want to go and explore those albums at least. Whereas Head Music, Indian Strings,
no, there's some good parts of it. There's like 13 songs, and there's a lot of like Elephant Man is fucking terrible.
I don't mind it. See, I don't mind it. I don't mind it. Yeah, I don't know. I've got a lot of time. She's in Fashion.
Very Radio 2.
A little bit overplayed, I think. I like this, but yeah, I've heard enough of that. But again, maybe it was overplayed by my mother. But
Can't Get Enough is a good track.
Can't Get Enough.
Yeah.
Can't Get Enough is just fantastic, and I think that's it. It's like that is so unswayed, I think.
No, but to me that is it. So this track here is a bit like Can't Get Enough. It's got that vigor, that oomph to it, which they've lost recently.
I think there's something punkier about Can't Get Enough. Versus Cynthia. But, yeah.
Sometimes when I think maybe it's just I wasn't expecting them to be any good. If that makes sense. So maybe it's like, oh wow,
so it's surpassed your expectations.
He could still do it. So yep. Moving on to your final track.
So I think Fran took this category perhaps more seriously than I did. It's the best track outside of Europe. So I deliberately wanted to choose a non-US act, and actually, when I was looking at my list, I'm like, these are all Europeans or Americans, or maybe the odd Canadian. And I think I was thinking about this because someone I was describing the podcast to recently, they were like, so is your podcast like a music podcast that tries to be funny, or like a comedy podcast with music? And I was like, no, we're definitely not. like we try to be funny. And I was thinking about how, I think I when comedy and music mix together in a way that I like, I think there's something magical about it. So I've gone for a very left field choice. This song is called "What Are Your Pronouns, Cunt?" and it's by this Australian comedy rapper, comedy singer, who knows, called Wesda. I came across this song because it went slightly viral on Twitter. I don't know much about Wesda, but I know that he wrote this song because he went to previously mentioned, he went to a Rebecca Black concert in Melbourne. And obviously there were lots of kind of LGBT plus people. And he was like, I don't think non-binary people have a song for them. So I'm going to write a song for them with loads of Melbourne references that I personally don't understand, even though I've been to Melbourne. But I just think there's something so casual about it, and the fact that he It's like the lyrics are literally like, I don't like boys, I don't like girls, I've got a they them baddie that I enjoy. So immediately you're like, okay, what is going on? But even later he's like, they said they're non-binary. I said, cunt, that's fine with me. You can still inspire me. I won't call you he or she. I don't care what you got downstairs as long as you can lick my feet. Pull up, knock a cunt out if they ever come misgender you. It's just like, just the Australian casual use of the word cunt with a very unique theme, in my opinion, plus quite a catchy beat and this weird fucking guy. I don't think I've enjoyed a viral song as much as I did this one this year, for sure. But I will say I sent it to my very liberal dad, my very pro-trans rights dad, and my dad's like, I think I am quite a modern person, but this one might be a bit too much for me. So, are you with me or are you with Paolo?
So when I saw it comes across like an Auntie Donna parody. But then I thought, but not parodying anything.
No,
because
no.
he means it, so
I
it's
think
not parody,
he means
is it?
No, that's...
So therefore, it's not funny because he means what he's saying.
But
so
come on,
I know. I know. It's got some cool rhymes in it. So apart from that, I was like, well, if you're not, it's just a bit naff.
I'm sorry, but yeah, I don't. No, I do understand what you're saying, but
yeah,
the line "pull up, knock a cunt out if they ever come misgender you," that is hilarious. That's actually to me.
But would you say this would be in your top 10 songs of the
Honestly,
year?
I got obsessed.
Really?
I got obsessed with it because I just don't think I could believe it. I couldn't believe it, and it was the first time I was like, please let this become available on streaming services. And I was following it, and he's like, I'm trying to get it on Spotify, but I can't. And then it eventually did, and I saved it, and I have listened to it. I think I would not enjoy this song. Like, this would not have made it anywhere near the top 10 if it wasn't for the video. If it wasn't for the video of this tall, skinny, weird dude grooving in Melbourne and saying, that can't see him, that can't she her, that can't they them, but I'm I'm an object. Like, amazing.
Did you watch other videos? I watched a couple more.
I watched the tradie rap, is it? Or something like that, where I think tradie's like Australian slang for builders or something like that. But again, I missed it. What did you watch?
I watched the Little Peep one with Feels.
Oh, no, I didn't see that one.
But that's it, because at first I thought, I don't know if this is a parody band or this is just a naff band trying to be right on. So but now I know they are a parody. But this is their thing, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
and even call it Bogan parody.
Yeah.
Is that a Melbourne?
So Bogan is the Australian word for kind of chav, let's say.
Okay,
so,
yeah.
But I mean, I think he says on YouTube, like, drop your pronouns in the comments, and some people are like, I am Sir Lord, and or if you want, I am his/lordship or something like that. But some people are like, oh my god, I'm sending this to every non-binary person I know. And one person gave him $10 Australian and said, this song makes me feel better about myself. Thank you. So I'm like, it's doing something with it as well. Like, I do think, like, of course there's parody elements in it. I can't tell his sincerity completely, but yeah, I really enjoyed it, and it was totally unexpected.
And I can't think of many European podcasts who'll be chatting about Wisdom
there we go, yeah,
in their top 10 list of the year.
Exactly. But you've gone for, let's say, a more proper choice befitting the last pick of this podcast, I think.
Well, I had to try and shoehorn this in. So at first this was group, but then it meant that Let's Grandma are European, so I had to swap it around. So I've gone for the American Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Bizarrely, like, when Yeah Yeahs came out, I wasn't a big fan. I love Maps, but I didn't really enjoy the stripped down sound, and I think I like Gold Lion, but there's only maybe a few songs I actually really, really enjoyed. And it's when their third album came out, but because they changed the sound and they added synths, is when I really, really got on board, and I adored that third album. Like Heads Will Roll was a brilliant track as well. And then they brought out Mosquito and went back to their older sound, and it was a bit hit and miss. And then I couldn't sleep because of anxiety, because I started a new job, and it was Thursday night, and it got to past midnight, and then I saw a thing on Spotify saying, newly released, and I literally didn't even know Yeah Yeahs had an album out. I was like, well, yeah, it's like so I clicked it, and it was the duet with Perfume Genius.
I haven't heard it, but I know Perfume Genius.
Yeah, and it's a great track. And then it kept on going, and then it got to this track, which is called Wolf. And as soon as I heard that synth line, I was like, oh, and because I was half like in a state of dreaming, and then suddenly I sort of like woke up, and I literally played it on repeat for another hour, and I was like, fuck me, they're back. It's been like 15 years. And then I watched them do it live, and I kept watching it again and again and again. But yeah, I mentioned it before, I'm a sucker for a synth line. And obviously, Karen O's got such a beautiful, cool, unique voice, you know. And it just works, and I can just listen to it again and again and again and again. And it's nothing new. It's basically the same sound of them, like circa 2006, but yeah, or 2007. But yeah, I just think it's a brilliant single, and it's a great album. And it's there's a few bands like, you know, like Placebo and Editors bands from my youth who've come back to make great albums this year, and I think this is one of them.
So this is a song that I saw you post about it on social media. I can't remember what you said exactly, but it was something like, Javier has just dropped the best thing ever. It was something very enthusiastic, and I was like, I'm gonna get.
I am one for throwing some hyperbole.
But this was like extra special. I was like, okay, for sure. Like I wasn't planning to check on the album because I am the opposite to you, Fran. I really loved the first two albums.
Yeah.
And then I really love Heads Will Roll. I think it's a great song. The remix, the video, everything. But every time I've tried to listen to Zero, I'm like, no, I don't like it. And Sacrilege from Mosquito I enjoyed, but for me actually that was on a similar vibe. But it's interesting that you say they went back, because that for me is a more, well, at least that song anyway, is more of a synthy vibe. So I've kind of ignored them since then. So I was like, well, Fran is probably going to pick this, so I'm going to wait. And thank God you picked it, because I really was not expecting this. And it seems like such a sound evolution to me. Like, not just the layers of synths, but that breakdown in the middle with the drums. Karen O's voice is still incredible. And they're using so many different kinds of synths, but the ones that hit me, which I wonder if it's the same one that it's the string ones in the chorus that drive it. The production's amazing. The second time I listened to it, when the kind of organ synths come in toward the end, I literally got chills, which is very unexpected for me, especially on kind of such an early listen. Although it's quite frustrating that it ends the way that it does, because it's just like, but I guess it leaves you wanting more. And I think like with the Enter Shikari song, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to listen to this song now for an hour and get into it. Yeah, it's incredible. I would have never expected this from them.
Oh, I'm very happy. And yeah, I mean, this also could be under songs I want to hear live as well. But yeah, it's a great album, and you know, if you're a fan of Perfume Genius, and
I don't really know Perfume Genius, I have to say.
Most people are saying that that's the best song on the album, but I think it's easily Wolf. Perfume Genius, I've had to compare him to Patrick Wolf, but you've not heard him.
No, but I know who Patrick Wolf is.
Yeah, it's like kind of like an enigmatic, flamboyant singer-songwriter, maybe a bit like Sufjan Stevens as well.
He did something with Christine and the Queens, didn't he? So.
Yeah, and yeah, he's got God, what's it called? He's got one song which is also a track I literally had on repeat for like a day. Listen to Slip Away. It's got 37 million, so it's quite popular. But yeah, wow. Slip Away is a fucking brilliant single. Give it a go. Mm-hmm. But yeah, woo.
Yeah. No, what?
Exactly.
When I saw what you had picked as your last song, like such a triumph, I was like, oh, what I picked is so much more like
like for like
throw away. But that's it. I was just like, that's it. Music for me is not just music. It was the emotion that it created. And both of these songs do that in a very, very different way.
Over underrated. Sous-évalué. Überschätzt. Överunderskattad. Over underrated.
Well, I feel like as ever, I really enjoy these records, because it's a mix of bands you know but you haven't heard the songs, new things. So thank you, Fran. But what were your highlights and lowlights in the music world this year?
Well, highlights, I guess, like I said, it was a lot of my past. It felt like I met with my old girlfriends and hadn't disappointed me. So, you know, like Placebo made probably the best album in 20 years. Not expecting that. Suede, again, Editors, yeah, is the best album in like 17 years. So that was lovely. Disappointments for Wet Leg album.
Really?
Yeah.
I am shocked.
apart from those 2 or 3
No,
singles from
I
last
like
year.
that album.
Yeah, but I think that
And you're much more likely
unfortunately,
to like that album than me. It's kind of
I know,
strange.
but I just think that those singles from last year are the best things on it still. You know
Wow.
when you put an album and you've heard the best already, it's like, oh, so that was the best they've
No,
already.
I think
Yeah.
there's lots of good album tracks there. Wow. Surprised.
And David Bowie film Moon's Daydream, was really excited for that, and yeah, it's too much Star Over content, unfortunately, and also the Placebo gig, it pissed me off because I have never seen a decent Placebo gig. Every time I go and see him, he's either ill or
Which he
I'm in a
was
crap
again.
seat. Well, no, he wasn't ill for this concert. He cancelled dates again. He must cancel dates. I actually went on Google and like it's literally every 2 years. It's like I said, he's worse than Madonna or Morrissey for delaying and cancelling dates. But yeah, so it's like I said, it's a good album, but I think playing 11 brand new songs
Yeah.
for a legacy band where you know that people there have only heard 2 albums from the 90s.
Well, listen, I think I've told this story before. I only saw Placebo once in 2006 at a festival, and they played a shit ton of new songs, and you're like, what are you doing?
Yeah. I get it. You're happy with the new music. That's
See,
fine.
but
But
at a gig, I can maybe understand it more. But at a festival, number one, come on.
yeah.
And also, there is a thing called track listing, and it's amazing because I think Placebo are fantastic at track listing their albums. They've got some great hidden songs, and some of their songs are louder, some of their songs are quieter, and they have that balance. So how can they have that balance on their albums, but not on their set lists?
And they must see it. So the whole idea was they had a warning to say that you can't film the concert, and the idea was so they could engage with the audience. But it's absolute bullshit. Like Brian said one thing the entire gig. So basically for the first hour, they must have been looking out and saw the hardcore fans who would be jumping up and down for anything. And then there's loads of middle-aged people with their arms folded, and how are they enjoying that? It was fantastic to hear them play Bionic. I've never heard that. But that's a great album track. I was really. But then I know I had heard the album 3 or 4 times, so I knew the songs. But I kept looking around me and I kept seeing people having a chat, and I thought you just killed the atmosphere. How hard is it just to play 2 of your big hits from the 90s just to bring up the atmosphere? Okay, you're bored of playing everything every year, but they didn't play that or Pure Morning or Nazi Boy. It's
I think I saw. I would need to check if there's a set list. I think I saw them play Every You, Every Me, but it was such a weird version that it took me probably about 30 seconds to realize that it was Every You, Every Me because they'd done such a different version of it. Which again, we talk about I obviously I don't like acts that play the songs exactly like it's on the album, but there's a difference between kind of changing it up a bit and turning almost like a cover version of your own song again at a festival in Luxembourg where. Who the hell knows? He's a local boy, but...
And also, and the encore was basically 2 covers. They did Shout and Running Up the Hill. Come on.
But Running Up the Hill... I get that. Fair enough, because I think they did introduce it to a lot of people pre, Stranger Things.
But 2 covers, and then not playing any of the big hits is a bit harsh, to be fair. So, yeah, it just bugged me, because, I love the band, and it feels like I'm never going to be able to see them play a decent show. But I will.
Just get a DVD from the past.
Yeah. What are yours?
What am I? So, linking back to the previous discussion, I feel like this has been a record year of discovering music through internet videos, whether it's, an actual song that's gone viral or the backing to a video. The amount of times I've Shazammed something or something has caught my ear in a completely different medium, in a context where I'm not expecting it, seems to be at a record high. And I love it because, as I said, I'm not really discovering new music in any other way. And I think people are so quick to be like, social media is bad. Well, I think it depends how you consume, when it comes to music, I think it depends how you consume it. I think you and I, we're not casual music listeners. If we are passionate about something, we'll find it and get into it. And there's nothing better for discovering new acts, for discovering genres that I don't normally listen to. So yay, the internet. I've also put Belgian music achievements this year, I think, have been incredible. So the fact that, Angèle released an album and it did really well, and Stromae has just done an NPR the Tiny Music Desk set, which is, reserved to big acts normally. And actually, a tweet about him went viral. So this woman on Twitter put, I think this man is beautiful. And it was just a clip of Stromae doing the Tiny Music Desk, and it had 20,000 retweets and followers. And I was just like, wow, okay, this is exceptional. And the much previously mentioned Charlotte Adigéry, her album and Bodice People's album was on loads of lists, and I'm like, this is incredible, especially with two of those artists singing in French. And okay, Charlotte Adigéry and Bodice, I think it obviously helps the association that they have with Soulwax, but I'm like, I can't, not since I don't know, not since Soulwax can I think of a Belgian act that's gone mainstream, and there are three that are really kind of making waves, which is really positive. My negatives, I think my main negative is just how precarious musicians' lifestyles are at the moment. The amount of acts who've cancelled tours. I think, I mentioned Let's See Grandma for Brexit, but Little Sims, who literally was, it was before she won the Mercury, but she'd won Brit Awards, and she was like, I can't tour in America because it's too expensive. Santi Gold, who's just put out a very good album, and I listened to her song Exploder, was literally like, I can't, and just it's, and I think, was it Metronomy as well? Like big acts are finding it difficult. Mickey Blanco as well pulled a bunch of stuff recently. I'm like, and what they all seem to be implying, it's like, it's actually, we're doing this for our mental health because it's just not acceptable what's going on. The fact that in the UK, it seems that a lot of venues take a cut of the merch, which is ridiculous because, as Tim Burgess keeps saying, it's not like bands take a cut of the bar. It's going to make music even more unsustainable, and it's going to very much narrow the field to people who can afford to do it or are just like the most motivated in the world of all time. And not everyone is an efficient creative, right? You need time and space to make music and to develop. So I think that's been really depressing to see. But I guess I can end on a more positive. I think maybe this is the year of the best gigs I've seen ever. Maybe it's because it's after lockdown. I only saw one gig in 2021, and that was the Hives, who were great. But every band that I went to see this year, and I didn't go to any festivals, right? So it's like any act that I went to see was just great. I was trying to think if I had to narrow it down, what was my favourite gig. Very difficult to see. And last night I went to see Léonie Pernet, who was one of my 2021 picks, and she was unreal. Unreal, the atmosphere she created. I think even she was like, fucking hell, like, calm down. And I've talked about Taciturn Brussels crowds. This was not one of them, and it was at one of my favourite venues, Rotonde, basically probably my favourite Brussels venue. And you were like, and it was her and this one other guy, and that was it. And you saw the magic that one person create versus Little Nas X, who I saw, who that was amazing for a whole other set of reasons, but that was a show. So again, we say this often, but guys, for fuck's sake, buy music, buy merch, go see bands. Like, you've got to do it. Otherwise, it's just going to be bilge and elevator music, and we don't want.
Yeah, and one of these for one of those cancelled most of the dates in the UK for the same reason. Yeah, they could only do London and Manchester again because of reasons. I assume it was visas and such, but yeah, and I noticed again on the festivals, I didn't know if it's because festivals book so much in advance they were too scared to book for an act in case there was another wave of COVID or something, but there was a definite noticeable.
But visas, it's not visas or like whatever it is that you need.
But it seems to be American bands obviously hasn't been affected, but all the foreign bands.
I think with American bands, it's like they have more exposure automatically anyway because they're how many Europeans listen to the NPRs and the KXPs. Right, so I feel and it's like, well, they need a visa for kind of everywhere, so maybe it's a bit easier for them to be like, well, we'll just tour like all of Europe. Whereas if you're a European act, why, if you can literally tour in 26 other countries with no issue, why then would you also choose to go to the UK unless it really was worth it because of the extra barriers?
Yeah, so I guess hopefully someone will work out something.
Yeah,
eventually. But yeah, there we go. That was 2022, guys. Let us know your favourite songs, albums, experiences, because we are
raring to hear your recommendations. When I look at the artists that we discuss on the podcast, like obviously we kind of have to discuss artists that have at the very least 2 albums. But it is a lot of oldies, and I do enjoy it. But I do also enjoy this, discovering new bands or revisiting the catalogue and lesser known hits of big bands. So
I guess it's hard because we are a rare breed, well, especially me, because most people every year I talk to my music friends on social media and I ask them, oh, what's your favourite song of the year? And so many people just can't pick anything. And I'm like, this is why, we're not going to, unless we invite some 22-year-old onto our podcast, it's going to be quite rare to talk about a new artist, unfortunately.
I think one thing that really shook me recently was I went to a karaoke night with some of my friends earlier this year. None of them had heard of WAP. They hadn't even heard of it. And I'm like, how? I can understand you not knowing the song, but I'm like, how removed are you from pop culture? And these are people who, a lot of them are into music, but it's just like, they're not into maybe music in pop culture. It's like they're into music in the era where they were young, but that's it. So yeah, that was really surprising. And I feel like I talked to so many people about Lizzo and they're like, who? And I'm like, how can you not know about Lizzo? Like, she is massive. It also surprised, like, I have very few friends my age who are actively into finding out music. Although I will say that I do have friends who are up for going to festivals and seeing bands that they haven't heard of in a way, but maybe more than me, because I like music so much and because I want to be careful with how I spend my money. I may be sometimes less likely to go to a festival and see new bands and just, go to the gigs where, I know the bands and I like them. So I think for 2023, I definitely want to go to more festivals. I went to none this year, basically, and I felt the FOMO a bit when I had friends who did. So
yeah, I mean, there's more chance of me seeing a band at a festival than me seeing a headline act. I don't really know, to be fair. I discovered like Baby Queen and Coach Party, just 3 festivals this year. So it's a good way of discovering bands because you can have a snapshot of a live band. But if you are listening to this and you are over 25, don't be scared of new music. Remember that feeling when you first heard your favourite band. It can happen again.
And you know what? Like, whatever the genre was when you were growing up, there are bands making that kind of music. It's not the genre of music that you don't like that's big in the charts. Like, that's just one genre. And also, I mean, you shouldn't close your mind off to that. But I can understand, like, if you're into rock and you're not seeing it, you're like, oh, who's making music? Well, shit, tons of people are making music. You just have to dig a little bit deeper.
Yeah, and in the mid-90s, we had Mr. Blobby and Robson and Jerome and Wigfield. Blur were at number 1, all of the 90s guys.
I think all our international listeners will really hit home.
Robson
and Jerome, especially. Unchained Melody, guys, look it up.
Simon Cowell, that's who got his money.
Yeah. Oh, God, yeah, I'd forgotten. But I will just... Okay, I've talked to you about this. Fucking watch the playlist on Spotify. #scratch the record. I need to have a conversation with someone about this fucking TV show because we've been talking about, artists and getting fair pay and all this kind of stuff. That is very much what this TV show is about. And I really can't say anything else apart from that hashtag without spoiling it for everyone. So please go and watch the playlist. Please go and message us about the playlist. I need to talk to someone about it. Okay, thank you.
And there we go, everybody. We forgot to say goodbye because we chatted far too much before and after this podcast. I think it was like a 4-hour record, so hence why it's into 2 parts. So thank you for listening to our best of 2022. As we mentioned, let us know of your favourite moments of the year. You can find us on Twitter at OUMusicPod, on Instagram over Underrated Music Pod, and on YouTube, imagine that, visuals over Underrated Music Podcast. And if you're old school, you can give us an email at overunderatedmusicpod@gmail.com. Thanks to Mark Abbott for the logo, thank you to Babs for being my co-host, and have a brilliant new year.